those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
It's time to steer the line.
Touchdown!
Sports betting, fantasy football, and the latest NFL news. Featuring Loud Esmond, Christian Giordani, Rocky Giordani, and Jeremy James. That'll help make you a better better.
What?
Let's get ready to steer the line.
Good afternoon, folks. I'm Christian Giordani, and the man who just screamed is Mr. Loud Esmond for some particular reason. And then we got Mr. Jeremy James as well. How are you guys doing?
I think Loud sat on a tack or something. I'm not sure how he's doing.
No. The Green Bay just threw a pick six against Cincinnati
in the preseason, and you're cheering like that, huh? All right.
Dang.
I've got the over.
Imagine when the Saints win for the first game in week 7.
Over.
I forget that people bet on preseason, and I think everyone who does is ridiculous.
No, there's a strategy to it. There's a strategy to it that you can win with. If you want me to explain it, I will. But first, I want to start with Christian, as a person with Native American blood, are you offended?
Here we go again.
By the Chiefs, by Chief Wahoo of Cleveland Indians?
No, no.
What about Tatanka? Do you remember Tatanka from the WWF?
No, I don't actually.
Oh, okay.
before my
before your time, yeah.
Buffalo.
No, I've never had problem with with the Redskins logo and the Braves and the Indians and the Chiefs. Growing up, it was always like that was a cool thing for us in Native American groups. Go around on the res, we all wore Redskin hats, and we all wore Braves hats, and we all wore Chihuahua on our head, and it was like our sign of we're us between us, and it was never an offensive thing. It was always the people who weren't Native American that got offended by it.
And by the way, as an Irish Catholic, I've got to say, the Fighting Irish doesn't offend me at all. If you've ever been to an Irish wedding, it's quite likely grandma is kicking somebody's ass. So, the bourbon starts flowing, the whiskey starts flowing, and the next thing you know, your cousins are kicking each other's asses on the dance floor. It's just the way that it goes.
For everyone who is completely confused, before the segment started, Loud was trying to offend me in every way possible. And me and Jeremy were trying to get out of it.
Which is impossible because Christian has alligator skin, and he knows I'm just a harmless, lovable fuzzball. So there's that. All right, let's talk some football, shall we? By the way,
yes,
the total for Green Bay Cincinnati was over under 35. I took the over and counseled people to take the over, and with 9 minutes and 16 seconds left, it's 14-13. I'm sorry, with 9 minutes and 60 seconds left in the second quarter, there's been 27 points scored. So 9 more points in the rest of this game, and we cashed the over. So I think
did Love start?
Yes, he led them to a touchdown on his second drive, and they took him out. And then ever since it's been I forget this other guy's name. Cincinnati has a quarterback who had played at Penn State, who I recognize, and he's been pretty good. But of course, their quarterback is going to be hopefully Joe Burrow. But let's talk about some of these injuries and holdouts and some fantasy football implications. Jeremy, that's your bailiwick.
Yeah, there's like you said, multiple things going on with some of the top players as far as injuries and dings and not being in camp for whatever reason. Joe Burrow is not a guy I would worry about as a fan or a fantasy football player. We've seen him have issues in the preseason. Week 1, the guy's fine. He's good to go. He's going to have a terrific season. So I wouldn't, drop him down your fantasy quarterback rankings.
In other words, in slang from Portland, don't be tripping.
Sure.
I guess.
If it's
Is that before or after my time? I don't know.
It's before.
Don't be tripping. I mean, that the 1996 wants its phrase
Yeah.
back there loud.
Mhm.
So don't trip, yo. But yeah, we've already on the show a few times have covered, the Josh Jacobs situation in Las Vegas. He's one of those guys that.
Let's not gloss over it. This
What's
is
that?
a problem.
No,
The
it is.
Raiders
No,
just
but
signed Damian Lewis.
yeah, but you were asking me from a fantasy standpoint.
Okay, fantasy
and
standpoint. Okay.
From a fantasy standpoint, I am gonna hold off on Jacobs until I know more. If you have a draft in the next couple of weeks, I wouldn't blame you if you don't grab the guy until like maybe the third round. He's not going to last that long. People are going to jump on him anyway. He's not a guy I expect to repeat his numbers from last season. I think he's going to be a second or third round pick player anyway. But yeah, I avoid him and that whole situation until we know more
Jonathan
about him.
Taylor is the 5th ranked. Here are my. I have to get the Fantasy Football magazines.
Oh no, you got a magazine?
Yeah, because
I buy those for fun once in a while, but no real information.
well, I had a couple of long flights.
Yeah,
so
that's when I buy them.
I'm in the airport, and what the hell?
There you go.
These things are like $12 now.
Yeah, I know.
$12.99. I was pissed.
That's why I don't really. Not only the outdated information. I mean, that's all back in May when they finished writing that. Then they keep jacking up the price because it's a magazine and no one buys them anymore. But yeah, Jonathan Taylor
ranked 5th,
and he concerns me. If because now we're in that time frame. Over the next 2-3 weekends, people are going to be having their fantasy drafts, and I'm not comfortable taking Jonathan Taylor in the first round when he's asking for a trade, when he's not at camp. He's not playing at all. He's not going to be around in the preseason. So I'm a little worried about that guy. I'm sure he'll be there. They'll figure something out. But there's a handful of players like him that I'm, draft. If you're drafting a week or two before the season starts, you're better off.
The 7th ranked running back is Tony Pollard.
Yeah. Pollard, I expect to see an increase in carries and in numbers. I mean, he's going to be the guy there,
but he's hurt
in the backfield.
He's coming off ACL, isn't he?
No, he wasn't. It wasn't an ACL injury. It was something else. I don't think it was ACL.
But Christian's going to figure it out. But in any case, he is.
Yeah,
he's not ready yet.
Yeah, but they're saying hopefully by week 1. But again, it's one of those things that make you nervous taking him as your number 1 guy or taking him in the first round. So yeah, there's healthier guys, let fade those guys down a little bit and, grab youth and health.
All right. So let me unpack this. I'm reading a lot in fantasy football about something called the running back dead zone. And don't draft in the running back dead zone. What the hell does that mean? What are they talking about?
Well, there is a point in the draft every year, and it's happening again this year. It's not great, but you get to a point probably where you get to like the end of the 3rd tier and into the 4th tier running backs. Even into the 5th tier, probably when you get around rounds 6, 7, 8, maybe even as deep as like round 9, where you don't have really good, solid, for sure starting running backs. You got guys who are coming off injury. You got guys who are splitting time. You got guys who are sharing with rookies. You got guys who are in their 30s. You run into an area where you're much better off between those rounds, like rounds 5 or 6 through 8, 9, where you hope to have good 2, if not 3 solid running backs by then, so you can avoid that whole area, because you're going to start dropping picks on guys who are going to split time, share time, and maybe not score anywhere near what you're expecting, when you could have been picking up, a mid-tier tight end out of the, second tier of tight ends, 3rd tier of wide receivers, guys who are going to put up big points, especially in PPR leagues. So there's that dead zone where they say basically avoid drafting running backs who are available between rounds 6 and 9 because the pickings are slim. And better times you're going to have a shot at some of those deeper rookies or some deeper picks in the later rounds that might pay off just as well as those dead zone guys that they talk about.
Now, Jeremy, just so I can snake this guy away from you, who's your number one overall guy this year?
I mean, the number one player, if you're in a PPR league or even a half PPR, I'd have to go with Justin Jefferson. Maybe even in a traditional scoring league, the guy is just a monster. When you look at some of the other people you might consider at the top of the draft, there is Christian McCaffrey, who I very much considered, and in a lot of my mock drafts, I've been taking as the number one, but there is some injury history there that worries me. And with that number one, if you're going to go number one, you kind of want to make sure that you hit. And injuries can happen to anyone, but Justin Jefferson's going into his third year. He's got a great rapport with his quarterback. They've got a nice young receiving core to take some pressure off of him, a tight end who could take some pressure off. He's going to be a monster. I think he can get 2,000 yards receiving this year. And I think he is the number one overall pick in just about any fantasy format.
All right, so I'm looking at Bleacher Report's first round, 12-team mock. Number one, Justin Jefferson.
Yep.
Number two, Jamar Chase. All right, I have a question there because if Joe Burrow isn't healthy, and look, I tore a calf muscle 7 years ago. The recovery time was about a year until it felt 100% normal. This is Burrow's plant leg that he has to throw off of. And his coach 2 days ago said the timetable is weeks. Well, how many weeks? Well, it's as many weeks as I said last time. Well, how many weeks was that? It's as many weeks. He never said, right? Mm-hmm. So this concerns me. Would you have any concerns taking Jamar Chase at number 2 because of that?
At number 2, personally, I would. Among some other things, I've drafted Jamar Chase in our league for the last 2 years. I had him as rookie season, and I took him as my number 1 pick in the draft last year. He didn't deliver like a number 1 pick. I mean, he just had a little over 1,000 yards and didn't hit double-digit touchdowns because he got hurt and was out some weeks. So, for me, I wouldn't take him number 2. I would rather take a chance on a Christian McCaffrey at that point. Or
who,
honestly,
by the way, according to Bleacher Report, is pick number 3.
Yeah, I'd even consider, if you're really wanting a wide receiver, I might look at Diggs or Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill, by the way, did fantastic for me last year, and I think I picked him up in the 3rd or 4th round because people were wondering.
People weren't sure. Exactly, people weren't sure. But yeah, at number 2, I'm more likely to go after one of the other running backs. I might consider Austin Eckler at number 2, or even Nick Chubb at this point, heading into the season. I like Saquon as a first rounder at the bottom of the first, though, just because he had a great season and he bounced back. Can he stay healthy and do it again? And if he can, great. But I would rather have him late in the first round.
Excuse me. Bleacher Report has, ready for this, Christian, this is for you, Cooper Kupp at number 4.
Cooper! Sorry.
And I've seen Kupp going that early in mock drafts and everything. He's been a first-round pick pretty steady everywhere I've been seeing and doing mock drafts. We know what he can do, but I'm concerned with him coming off injury, with his quarterback coming off injury, with that offense not being, maybe as potent as it was last year. Is he still a number 1 wide receiver in fantasy? Yeah, but I don't know if I'm taking a chance on him that late. Again, maybe end of the first round as your first round pick, but not at the top 5.
Yeah, ESPN has something similar to what Jeremy's saying. They have Cooper Kupp at number 9, the 4th overall wide receiver in their fantasy draft.
Austin Eckler comes in 5th. We already talked about him. The 6th pick is a tight end, Travis Kelce.
Yeah, and you've seen that trend with just really Kelsey over the last few years. He is head and shoulders above all the other tight ends as far as fantasy goes and scoring. And you got to consider he is going to be, once again, the number one target in Kansas City this year. The man is always open.
Kansas City!
They can't cover him. He can't be stopped. I hate it. And as a Raider fan, can't stand the guy, but he's fantastic for fantasy. And in the mid rounds, yeah, if you're picking in like 6 or 7, 8, and the top 3 wide receivers are gone, the top 2 or 3 running backs are gone, I have no problem taking him because he's going to score like a top wide receiver for you and take care of that position that other people are going to be struggling at.
At number 8, they've got Nick Chubb. I'm not sold completely on him because I just don't like Cleveland. I have a hard time backing players on teams that I don't believe in. And number 9 is a rookie running back by the name of Bijan Robinson.
I love that pick.
From the Texas Longhorns. He is going to be the bell cow running back for a very bad team, the Atlanta Falcons. Christian, how does the rookie do? Is he worth a first-round pick?
I think so. He's going to be implemented into the offense right away. He's my favorite for Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's, in my opinion, I'm not going to say guaranteed because that's never a word you want to use, but I'm very confident in his ability to have 1,000 rushing yard season.
Yeah, I'd just be as comfortable with him late in the first round as I would somebody maybe that you're concerned about, their injury or something like that, maybe like a Saquon or a Cooper Kupp, because the risk is just as much with a rookie, but the payoff can be fantastic, and that's what you really want. You want that first round pick to be your big scorer, and he could just absolutely tear it up this year.
All right. The running back situation is muddled because, let's face it. Can Derrick Henry be Derrick Henry again? Do we believe in Nick Chubb playing for the Browns? Najee Harris at Pittsburgh?
I like that too.
There's a lot of number 11, Ramondre Stevenson at New England. I'm not even that familiar with him.
Ramondre had a great season last year, and I expect him to be even better this year, to be quite honest. He's really all they got in the backfield of any talent, and the kid's good.
Why is Joe Mixon all the way down at 18? Isn't he better than that?
I think so. And I actually like, there's that group right there at the bottom of the first and into the second, maybe even top of the third round.
I'll tell you, below 12, Kenneth Walker for Seattle, Breece Hall for the Jets, given that they don't sign Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon at Cincinnati, and Aaron Jones at Green Bay are all, I think, value picks at running back.
Yeah, and of those guys, I like Mixon the best actually this season. I think in his final, it's his final year of his contract, so he's going to be playing really hard to either get re-signed or put himself out there for a free agent contract. The 2 young guys, I do like them. There's plenty of talent and to be excited about with both Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker, but they're also both coming off injuries. And Kenneth Walker now has Zach Charbonnet in the backfield as, a running mate. So, and even in New York, there's some talent in the running back position there in his backup. So if these kids aren't ready to roll right from the get-go, they may have some trouble getting the kind of carries people are expecting this year.
All right, let me run through the receivers as ranked in my nifty The Athletic Fantasy Football 2023 projections. 1, we all agree, Justin Jefferson. 2, Jamar Chase. 3, Tyreek Hill. Do you have any trouble with any of those rankings, Jeremy?
No, I think that's I think that's a solid way to start.
4, 5, and 6 are Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, and CeeDee Lamb, and they are ranked ahead of Stephon Diggs.
No,
That is
No.
insane.
that is insane. I would put Diggs as the number 5 wide receiver this year. Devontae, I would fade him just a little bit.
Big
Back-
question mark on
Oh,
quarterback.
I would fade him a lot.
Yeah, no, I think he may give you second round numbers and not first round wide receiving numbers this year. And then who else was in there?
Cooper.
Yeah, Cooper, we've already talked about. CeeDee Lamb, I think it's a solid pick. I think he's going to be fine. He's going to do pretty much
Well,
what he
but
did last year.
Dallas is going to run the ball, Jeremy.
Well, they're still going to have to throw it around, and they got some good receivers there. He's finally got a number 2 who could take some pressure off of him, and Brandon Cooks.
8, A.J. Brown. 9, Jalen Waddle. 10, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Question.
Finally, some Amon-Ra respect.
Amon-Ra
man.
St. Brown.
See, I like all 3 of those guys better than the other, like some of the other
I
guys
like
we were
him
just
better
talking
than
about.
Cooper Kupp, Devontae
I like him better
Adams,
than
or CeeDee
CD.
Lamb.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, those are 3 exciting guys heading into the season for fantasy football.
T. Higgins, 11, Chris Olave, 12. I love Chris Olave because he had to be the number 1 receiver for New Orleans last year. Michael Thomas is going to be the guy that gets double covered, which means Chris Olave is going to be the guy with single coverage. And what an upgrade they got at quarterback in Derek Carr. I mean, you want to talk about going from an Edsel to a Ferrari in terms of a guy who can deliver the ball with pinpoint accuracy.
Oh my!
and
Okay.
timing.
Did we just call Derek Carr a Ferrari?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I would say more like a Volkswagen station
he
bus.
may be the
But
Sistine Chapel of quarterbacks, the David by Michelangelo.
This
No,
coming from the guy who thinks that Michael Thomas is going to be the number 1 wide receiver and still get double
I'm
teamed.
pretty sure I can name 31 better
Is
quarterbacks right now
Michael
than Derek
Thomas
Carr.
not going to Chris
No.
Thomas and Chris
No.
Olave, who are they covering?
No, they're going to cover Olave because
Okay.
Michael Thomas does not have the wheels he had 4 years ago, the last time he had a really good actual season. The guy hasn't hardly played at all for the last 2 years, and he has not done much, and he hasn't looked good. Maybe he'll bounce back. He's going to be the number 2.
Thomas is going to have a great year because Chris Olave is going to draw the double coverage.
I do like Olave a lot this year, though. I think he and Carr are going to hook up, and I think he'll have an even better season than he did last year. I do like Chris a lot.
All right. Did anybody see this, by the way? During warmups, DK Metcalf blocked a field goal attempt.
No, I didn't catch that.
No.
So the other team was trying field goals from a long distance. DK Metcalf jumped above the bar and slapped away a long field goal attempt.
Dang.
That boy got hops.
He's a freak of nature, man.
Which, by the way, brought to mind for me, if a team is ever going for a 50-yard plus field goal against the Seahawks, if I'm Pete Carroll, I'm putting Metcalf back there. Knock it down, son.
Did you ever, I'm sure this is way before Christian's time, but Lau, did you ever see that movie, The Arrival, where the aliens' knees were backwards so they could jump like super? There, he's got those backwards alien knees, DK Metcalf. That's why he can jump the way he does. He has arrived.
Mm-hmm.
DJ Moore, everybody, he's very hyped. Carolina Panthers, I drafted him a couple times in late rounds, and he never did jack for me. But he's being touted as the second coming for the Chicago Bears. I don't buy it. I'm sorry. I don't think he belongs in the top 20 receivers.
I mean, until last season, he was, every year he had broke 1,000 yards up until last year when he had 4 different quarterbacks all subpar throwing to him. So he is a good receiver, and I think in that offense, with Justin Fields improving as a passer, I think he will have a solid season. I think they're going to be good for each other. Is he a top 20 wide receiver? I don't know, but there's guys in that same range that I would rather take a shot with DJ Moore than some of those other guys.
Couple of folks that are ranked in a couple of places that I just want to point out might give you incredible value. Deebo Samuel is the 24th ranked receiver.
It's based on what he did last year. He struggled. They weren't running him at all, really, with the ball like they did the year before. So, I mean, his numbers dropped more than half from the previous season. So you got a lot of people on high alert. But I think he's going to bounce back. I think he'll be more of a receiver than he was, a weapon a couple years ago, and he'll get back to a 1,000-yard season.
Yeah.
Brandon Cooks is now in Dallas, and he's ranked 41st among receivers.
I love that pick.
I'm sorry.
Love that pick.
I might take him in the 3rd round.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't jump that hard on him, but the fact that he is like
1 minute.
The fact that someone like Brandon Cooks, who I think is going to be really good in Dallas, the fact you can get him as like your 4th or 5th receiver in fantasy drafts right now is quite a value. He's definitely on my value list.
And now for Christian, number 47 on the receiver list, Odell Beckham Jr.
Much higher.
Yeah, I think those two guys would be great value receiver. Jeremy, Christian, thank you. Who's going to take us out tonight?
I'll take us out, everyone.
Right.
Thank you. That was our fantasy picks for this year. If you want to hear more, come see us on YouTube at Steer the Line, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye.